So I've been asked by a couple of people about a 1986 cr250 that I've got in stock. Looks like a reasonably nice bike. On the outside of the engine and everything, it looks quite good. Took the radiator cap off though, and there was no water in it, so I've taken the drain plug out of the water pump housing, and nothing came out. So then I've taken the sump plug out to drain the gearbox oil, and then this is what's the state of the oil on the sump plug, and that's the state of the oil that's coming out of the gearbox. So I'm gonna take the water pump cover off and have a look inside there. I'm gonna get some diesel, and I'm gonna stick some diesel in the gearbox to flush it out, and we'll see what the situation is with the water pump. So there you go, that's what she looks like. So the casing is corroded, which is a common problem with these. So it's a magnesium casing, and basically if people don't run proper coolant inside there and they just use water, then it corrodes the casing, and then you get small holes that go through from the back. I mean, you can see where it's eaten completely through, the water has, but you get small holes that go through, and they basically the water seeps through into the gearbox area. So that's why the gearbox oil is so nasty, because there will be tiny little holes in the casing, and the water has drained out of the water pump and the radiator and into the gearbox. I mean, people do repair these, and that is what you could do. So blast it and then start building it up with JB Weld or something like that. And I've done it in the past, and I've had some reasonable success. But the best thing to do is to change this casing for an 88 or an 89. I think the 88s were still magnesium, but I think the old stock replacement clutch covers, inner clutch covers, side casings for these are aluminium. And you put a new clutch cover on, like a Boyson one or something like that, and it's all aluminium then, and it won't corrode. So for me, it's not really worth changing that casing. It's not something that I'm going to get my money back on, basically. So I sell a lot of these bikes as projects, and so to me that is the project that needs doing with this bike. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put diesel in the gearbox, because that'll help to clear it out. But I'm going to check if it goes through the gears. I know the engine turns over. I'm going to check whether it sparks. It has got reasonable compression, but probably if you're doing the casing and stuff like that, you might want to, change the piston and things like that as well. Just depends to what level you're going to go about restoring this bike. So I'm going to take some pictures of the parts of the bike and do a general walk around of it. And then basically it's going to be for sale with this water pump problem. So she's got a great spark, she's got a good compression. So I'll just do I'll put the plug back in and do a little overview of the rest of the bike now. There we go, so let's just the gearbox test. Right, so it's in neutral. First gear, very hard to turn the rear wheel, because obviously it's the lowest gear, and it's got to turn the engine over. So from there, second gear, again turning the engine over. Third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, that's the top, and back down, 4th, to neutral. The general walk around of this bike. So front wheel looks pretty good. There's a few little scuffs and scrapes, but she's round, so it doesn't need a new rim. Front mudguard looks okay. Front number board looks okay. There's pressure in the front brake. They've modified the brake and the clutch lever with a piece of tube and a split pin. So they've obviously snapped the lever and then decided to repair it with a piece of tube and a split pin. Clutch feels good. It's got this horrible desert tank on, which isn't even for the right bike, and they've repaired the rad scoop there. The frame looks good, looks to be original paint to me. It's a little bit worn, so it doesn't look as though this bike has had a huge amount of use, because the casings look relatively nice. The pro circuit pipe, which would be nice, has got a big dent in it, so that is going to need blowing out or replacing. The big thing is this side casing, which is corroded through, so that's going to need replacing. She sparks, she's got good compression, she goes through all the gears, and she generally looks okay. There was damping in the rear suspension. I'll just double check in a minute. I'm going to put diesel in the gearbox because obviously it's got emulsified oil in there, which is mixed with the water. Let me just check the rear brake. Yeah, rear brake works fine. So generally, it's the water pump repair which needs doing. Bit of cosmetics, ideally find a new tank, and she should make a nice Evo race bike.